Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the NXTGEN Racing MX-5 Cup here on Crest Autosport TV and NXTGEN Racing TV. We're here for round 7 of the championship at the Snetterton circuit in Norfolk in the UK. It's good to be along with you this evening. My name's Alex Everett, and alongside me, as always, is Paul Walsh. And tonight we have got more MX-5 racing for you. We have just got 4 rounds left in the season. 3 sprint race format races and then an endurance at the end, and one of the sprint race format races will be an oval, so it's plenty of diversity between now and the end of the season, and it is that time in the season where the drivers really are going to be hammering down the pace to get themselves into their championship positions that they so desire. Lots of championship battles to keep an eye on tonight. As I mentioned, alongside me, Paul Walsh. Paul, how are you doing tonight? Are you looking forward to this round? A track that you are particularly fond of, you keep telling me.
Oh, thank you, Alex. Indeed, doing very well, and well, very excited for tonight. Snetterton, of course, a circuit which, as you say, I'm very fond of it. I've had the opportunity to drive around here in my own personal car, and whilst I'm not the base of the races that we're going around the circuit tonight, and indeed a real-world races, I can definitely say this is a circuit which, if you haven't had the chance to go around in a car or drive your own car around it, once you have, you'll never look back, because it's a fantastic circuit. It's a bit of a flat one, but at the same time, a very fast one, and our MX-5 drivers tonight, well, from looking down the paddock, seems a lot of them are very excited for it. We've got some long straights, we've got some heavy braking zones, and everything in between. It may not be the 300 layout, but the 200 layout definitely springs up some surprises. But before I forget, Alex, how you doing?
I'm very good as well, yeah. You, like me, suffering from hay fever at the moment, which I'm sure the drivers are as well. It's that part of the year, and we're all struggling a little bit with it, but excited to be commentating on tonight's race. This was a particular favourite last season for the 300 layout, but why have we switched to the 200 layout? Well, the 200 layout is a bit more of the, what I call traditional Snetterton. I remember from the 90s, of course, being the little lad I was watching touring cars growing up, but it's slightly different to the layout that we used to have at Snetterton, which we had until 2010 when it began reconstruction, building the infield, which is referred to as the 300 layout now at Snetterton. But this is a classic layout, featured great touring car racing before 2010, and we picked this track because, well, we raced here in the Legends series in season 2 all them months ago. It was beginning of last year, I believe, and it was a cracking round. Quite a few incidents, granted, but it was exciting in that all those Legends cars were side by side on this wide and fast track. I believe here, Paul, average speeds, well, we actually mentioned it last time at Silverstone, average speeds now for this second half of the season are going to be pretty high. We were at Silverstone National last time out, where cars were barely going below 80 miles per hour, and here today, very quick. Watkins Glen next week is a simplified layout, very quick. Daytona, an oval, so it's flatter all the way, and Le Mans, which has the Mulsanne straight. This is a very fast end to a season, isn't it?
Oh, indeed. It's an end to a season which is really going to get the blood pumping each and every round. And it almost seems as though in a way that we're building up to a crescendo, and what a crescendo to have in the season finale at Le Mans. But we've got to get there. And indeed, a number of races coming up, including today's race at Snetterton, where it's all about being not just the fastest driver over a single lap, but also being smart about when you go for those moves and when you go for the win. And we saw that at Silverstone, a number of occasions where we had 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 drivers battling for the lead over the course of multiple laps, and in the end it was the driver with the smarts in the draft who came away on top. And I suspect we're going to see a lot more of that tonight, albeit with some very tricky braking zones, particularly the trail braking zone, which we can see in the back of our camera shot right now.
It would be a good, opportunity right now to actually show you, ladies and gentlemen, what happened last time out at Silverstone. It was a cracking battle amongst the top 5 last time out at Silverstone. If you have a chance to go and rewatch last round at Silverstone, please do, because Will Chadwick was some brilliant, cunning driving to win the race in race 3. It will go down as a next-gen classic, that is for sure. But let's move on to the job at hand. We've got 5 minutes until qualifying starts, so let's go through the championship standings as they are heading into tonight, and we'll start with the pro category, and for good reason, because at the top of the standings we've one drop round implemented, and it will be refreshed after round 9, so these are not the drop rounds as we're going to see them later in the season. It's just an update so you can kind of see how things are in the championship to this point. But as you can see at the top there, it's the two Fordzilla drivers dead level on points, both on 376 points. Liam McNeilly and William Chadwick fully level on points, and that is extremely exciting as we head into this latter part of the season. Mikey Doble, I expected him to be a bit closer, but still, he's only 28 points behind. The defending champion has got a job to do, but if anyone could do it, Mikey Doble can do it. Third in the championship for Mikey at the moment. Chris Staines in 4th position on 320 points. Don't write him off either. He's only 56 points behind. Plenty in the tank for him, and plenty of rounds left for him to close the gap to the front runners, particularly after such a good round he had at Silverstone last time out. Dan Skinner in 5th position, 114 points behind. He's in a battle with Jamie Dory in 6th and John Higgins Jr. and Aidan Wilson in 8th and Adam Delmont in 8th. It's a close battle between them lot from 5th down to tied 8th place. And rounding off the top 10, Wayne Douglas with Nick Clibbins just outside the top 10 in 11th. Rob McGregor in 12th position with Danny James 13th, James Warrior 14th, and Marcello Pagnan in 15th on 3 points at the bottom there. And we move on to the AM category standings. Paul, over to you.
Well, as we look to the AM category standings, it is the case that going into this round, with drop scores considered, it's Sam Smith who leads on 356 points. He is the best part of 53 points clear of Lee Horne. Sam Smith really in a bit of a class of his own at the moment, but it is the case that the tables can turn at any moment and he won't be taking anything for granted. Indeed, Lee Horne trying to prove the adage that consistency is key, and that's why he's in P2. He is, of course, only what is there 18 points clear of Nigel Stock currently, and Nigel Stock has shown a lot of pace, a lot of promise to Crest Autosport with Apex Tracks driver, but by comparison with the Simtech Excite Racing and NXTGEN Racing with Team Orange drivers, it is the case that whilst he's had the pace, the consistency has been found wanting, and that's why he's in P3. 12 points clear of Alan McCain, and McCain, a driver for McCain Lively and Clark Racing, who's really starting to build up that pace as we go deeper into the season. And Jamie Nicholson completing the top 5 there, the Evo Sim Racing with Fruity Pebbles driver, 238 points, and really the best of the rest with that sizable gap to the top 4, and then only 5 points behind him, Paul Scott, followed by Michael Leese in P7. And again, you can see a 22-point delta between Leese and Scott. It is have a couple of subdivisions in the bottom half of the top 10, and Leese being pursued very hotly by Giancarlo Schuler, although we haven't seen the team racing driver for a couple of rounds now. We do return in the near future. William Fall for Crest Autosport of Apex Tracks and 200 points, closing the delta to Giancarlo Schuler. And then we have Bud Dobson, who completes the top 10 for Def Sim Racing. Just outside the top 10 by the margin of 9 points, but trying to close up tonight, John Higgins Sr., the HSR1 driver, with Jeff Perkins in hot pursuit on the same number of points, but behind on countback. Then we have Ollie Peters P13, Matt Evans P14, and James Clark P15. Now outside the top 15, but not to be forgotten about, Mark Anthony McLaughlin, followed by Thomas Delaney and Matthew Addy. That is how your AM Championship stands going into this round.
And moving on to the team's championship standings, Fordzilla running away with it a little bit at the top. A good couple of rounds has seen them stretch the gap over NXTGEN Racing Team Orange. Crest Autosport with Apex Tracks didn't start the season so well, but Nigel Stock and William Fall have been putting in some good rounds. They put themselves in 3rd position. Mikey Doble with Douglas Racing have caught up a little bit in the last few rounds. They're only 140 points off the top 3, but Mikey Doble and Wayne Douglas looking to get themselves into that top 3 in the team's championship standings, as well as worry about their own championships. They're both in the top 10 in the pro category standings. And it's NXTGEN Racing Team Blue in 5th place with HSR2 in 6th, Simtex Excite Racing in 7th, HSR1 in 8th, SVP Motorsport Excite and GCR Racing in 9th. That's a bit of a mouthful, but yep, they're in 9th place. Verano Motorsport are slowly catching up, but with only one driver for some of the season and now 2 drivers joining the team, Verano Motorsport are slowly climbing up the order. They currently sit in 10th position. McCain, Lively and Clark Racing 11th, followed by Def Sim Racing, SRC Milvano Course with SSD Racing in 13th, Evo Sim Racing with Fruity Pebbles in 14th, and OTR in 15th. So they are our championship standings, and we are transitioning over into qualifying right now. And it'll be quite an exciting session. A session, Paul, where we're going to see a lot of drafting. We say that quite often here at NXTGEN Racing, but these MX-5 cars really do depend on the draft, particularly on circuits like this.
Oh, indeed. It is the case, as you say, Alex, that dependency. And in terms of what that translates into in lap time, it is a case that being in the draft could be worth a whole second at some circuits. And here today, we do have two very long straights. So we see a number of drivers there deciding to take a rallycross line coming out of Rich's corner at turn number 1. Not sure what's happened there, perhaps a bit of evasive action. But coming back to the point at hand, we do have two very long straights, the back straight or the Bentley straight, which you'll see our drivers going on to very shortly, and also the start-finish straight. But we've also got some small straightaways connecting our corners in between, and therefore if you can stay in that draft and gain the time by being in the slipstream, you could see your lap time improving by somewhere in the region, I would predict, of about half a second over the course of the average lap.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll see a lot of that from the Fordzilla drivers here. The Fordzilla drivers all season long have been working together very, very well in qualifying. I believe for the majority of the season, I'm just going to check my stats, it's been mostly them two taking pole for the season. The only exceptions were Alton Park, which went to Mikey Doble, and round 1, which went to Marcello Pagnan. But a lot of drivers running off the track, cold tyres, but someone who might be on a good lap on the next run round, as he's got two Verano cars here, is William Chadwick, our driver of the day last time out at Silverstone National Circuit. But take us on a lap of Snetterton, please, Paul and William here.
Alrighty, so as he makes his way across the timeline down towards turn 1 here, coming up to the highest possible speed on the start through here straight, he'll be braking into someone into Rich's corner, coming down from 160 miles an hour, trail braking in, and he wants to try and get that nice late apex there as he now makes his way down towards Montreal Hairpin, now known as Justin Wilson Hairpin, in honour of the late motorsporting legend. But as he rolls his way down the gearbox here in towards first gear, 200 now, of course, we snap back to left, and now straight down the Bentley straight we go as we come out of turn number 3, and that's the full charge. This will be the highest top speeds we'll see over the course of the race today. Down the back straight, going up to already 4th gear, 100 miles an hour. Looking to go into that trail braking zone for turns 4 and 5. Brundle into Nelson, and he'll be coming down from approximately 120 miles an hour. Trail braking in here, and you want to stamp on the throttle just between the transition of the corners here to settle the car down. Takes a bit too much apex curve there. Have at Nelson corner, it causes the car to go up on 2 wheels, and now he rolls his way into Bombhole corner, coming up into 3rd gear, absolutely bouncing the throttle on a knife edge, and now rolling into Coram, turn number 7 here. The apex never seems to appear, and then it does. A very late apex. The understeer is a bit wide there. It's actually quite a poor run through the corner, and I think he's giving the place up there to his teammate Liam McNeilly as Chadwick as he rolls his way through Murray's corner. It's a bit of a compromised lap, but I think where Chadwick has been compromised, his teammate McNeilly's been able to gain, and as they come to the timeline, we'll see their laps come on in.
Yes, we will. And Liam McNeilly was the one drafting William Chadwick on that lap, and as he comes across the line, sets a 121.0 and a second clear of William Chadwick. Of course, Chadwick backed off on that lap to let through McNeilly, but now it's Chadwick's turn to set the lap. What about Mikey Doble? Let's see how he's doing. He's coming across the line now. Let's see if he gets up high in the standings. I believe he was the front runner of this pack here, but 7/10 of a second, 3/4 of a second off the pace of McNeilly on that opening lap. But remember, he has no draft ahead of him. He has no car towing him along. William Fall is behind him, getting pulled along by Mikey Doble. William Ford with a good round last time out at Silverstone. He'd be hoping for a repeat of that this time around. Sam Smith here, leader at the AM category championship. First in the AM at the moment in qualifying right now as he heads down the Bentley Straight. But Sam Smith here, Paul, it's been quite a quiet season for him, but that's exactly what's got him to the top of the stands in the AM category. He missed last time out, but the drop round has benefited him. But it's been a pretty good season from him, hasn't it?
Indeed, it's a case that if we were to use the saying silent but deadly, Sam Smith really embodies that in the fact that we haven't really had big controversies, big incidents or anything major, but he's the one who's been delivering it day in, day out, and whilst he wasn't there last time out at Silverstone, it is the case that with the drop score accounted for, it is his consistency which has been so key, and I think the Simtech iRacing driver tonight on his return to the series, as he makes it out the final corner, will be thinking that he's got the momentum in his favour, and he's a bit of an unknown to his peers in the AM class, whether it be Lee Horne, for example, alternatively, say McCain. They'll be looking across to Sam Smith and thinking, okay, what's he got that we haven't? And I think the answer is he's got the right combination of pace, consistency, and also just knowing when to back out when he doesn't need to fight.
Exactly, yes. But let's revert our attention to other drivers. William Fall has just gone second in the standings, slotted himself between two big names in this series, Chadwick and McNeilly, but he's been towed along by Mikey Doble, and that's definitely helped out Will Fall here. Very cleverly positioned his car here in qualifying right behind Mikey Doble and is getting some good lap times out of it. That will help Will Fall out heading into race 1 here. Let's find out how the session progresses and how everyone's time does progress, because, well, any driver's got the opportunity to sit in the draft and get a good lap time, but actually getting all the corners correct on this lap and hooking up that good lap takes something else. We've got another driver slotting in behind these two. It's the number 13 car there of Jamie Dory, who's currently in 14th, just trying to establish his position here out on track, which you're going to find out. Which you're going to have, excuse me, he's letting by Wayne Douglas here. He's trying to get the right position on the track here. Now, Jamie Dory has had a few unlucky rounds the last few rounds. Beginning of the season, he started really well. But he's hoping to get his season back on track, get back into 5th position to hold on to that 5th position for the championship. Up to the top of the standings goes Chris Staines, Paul. This is a driver who's really been turning up to the last few rounds and really putting in the big numbers, hasn't he?
Oh, indeed. I mean, when we spoke to him prior to him joining the series, he said that the one car he always focused on in iRacing is the LMP2 Dallara P217 machine, which I believe is a machine you're very fond of, Alex. But we'll come back to that in a brief moment. But Danes, when he was telling us that he was new to the MX-5, it was the case. He hit the ground running, and whilst he wasn't on the pace in the first round he took part in, you could see over the 3 races he was learning very quickly, and he's been doing that over the course of the season. Right now, to see him on pole, I'm not surprised. It is the case. He just has this knack of learning so quickly, and he may not be the fastest in clear air compared to, say, McNeilly, Chadwick or Doble, but it seems as though he can watch them, analyse what they're doing and go, right, next round I'm going to do a little bit more of that, and get his lap time even closer, if not put himself in contention for pole or the win. And Spa was the best example of that, where it was a battle between him and also Chadwick and McNeilly all the way down to the finish line.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been one of the biggest improved drivers, despite being this quick. Even from the get-go, he has improved a huge amount this season. He's trying to get himself a good position between or behind these Fordzilla drivers, but he's ahead at the moment, so very much he's the one with the right cards at the moment, and it's all down to the Fordzilla drivers to call his bet and get themselves back in front. But it's already been a spanner in the works for the Fordzilla drivers as Jamie Dory and Mikey Doble working together. Jamie Dory's just a few places back here, but there's a lot of drivers coming through now, really hitting these times, not too far off. Chadwick has been bumped down to 8th place here, as we saw Doble, Dory, Horne, Lees and Clibbins, all of them move right in between Mikey Doble, Liam McNeilly and Chadwick in the last 30 seconds or so. This is really proving how effective that draft is on this track. So we're going to see plenty of shuffling throughout this session, I think, Paul. It's really a game of where you're going to place your car and who you're going to sit behind.
Oh, indeed. And on top of that as well, with our drivers now making their way around, I mean, we're 8 minutes into a 15-minute qualifying session. We talked about at the start, the cold times, and we saw many a driver deciding to play a little bit of rallycross or just really not being able to hook the car up. But now that track temperature is coming up, and as it does come up, the grip starts to form. And I think our drivers are really timing, trying to get those best laps in now as the time bears down. And we can see here Team Fordzilla go across the timing line once again. William Chadwick jumps up to 3rd. The track is really building, and now I think we're going to see that sense of urgency. You can see on the track radar and the right hand side of your screen how we've got 2 packs of drivers forming. We've got one pack that's making its way up into turn 2 already, and the other pack, which is we're splitting now. Some of the drivers coming into the pits to put fuel and a new set of tyres on, and the rest carrying on through here. So it's interesting to see the dynamic around the field.
It is, yeah. It's very strange that those 3 drivers all came into the pits at the same time, just over the halfway point. So they're going to get fresh tyres on and head back out and get themselves fresh laps in the books. Chris Staines is in the pits, Mikey Doble's in the pits, Dory, Horne, Foyle, Douglas, Nicholson, all taking on fresh tyres and hoping to get a fresh batch of laps out there. It's a relatively short lap compared to what we have been racing on this season, particularly compared to Spa-Francorchamps and the Red Bull Ring, of course. Silverstone was quite a short track last time out. Just over a minute was the lap at Silverstone last time, but 1 minute 20 is this track. Relatively short and very, very quick indeed. You can see speeds nearly hitting 120 miles per hour on the Bentley straight there for Sam Smith. 4th in AM category in qualifying at the moment, and his championship rivals up in 1st. This is the point in the season where Sam Smith is going to have a keen eye on his rivals, and in particular Lee Horne. So it's going to be good seeing them two battle tonight. So Chris Staines is still in the pits, but we've still got the Fordzilla drivers out there haven't come into the pits, are still rely on this set of tyres. And to be honest, the tyres can last quite a long time on these cars, Paul. But I mean, what would you say? Would you rather come into the pits to get fresh boots about halfway, or would you rather stick to the rubber you've got? It's kind of a driver prefers either or, don't they?
I would agree with you there, Alex. I mean, personally, for me, I'd like to come on in, put on a new set of boots, and go out there once again, just because I'd like the feel. It's almost as if it's a little bit of a placebo effect. If it's not going to actually give me any lap time, just the fact I'm in a fresh car once again, and I can go back out there. But some drivers prefer to take a little bit more out the tyre over the qualifying session, really rubber in the circuit as well, and get that feel. And that's what Team Fordzilla are doing here. And I think it could work out for them. It also means that they don't have to worry as much as they do have to worry about Jamie Dory getting it very wrong coming out of bomb hole corner there, as they roll their way into Coram. But for them, they can really place themselves on track, whereas coming into the pits, you then got to fit your way back into that order. You've got to find where you belong on the circuit, get that toe. And well, one kind of way from that briefly, we've got a new driver today who we haven't introduced yet, and that is Joseph Houston, I believe.
Yes, Joseph Houston. Where is he in the field? There he is, 18th at the moment. Welcome to the series, Joseph. And I think Steve Cox is, I think it's his first race of the season, and I laughed my head off at the livery he's got in. Just take a close look as he drives by here. You can't quite tell it from that angle. Let's see if we can get a better angle. There we go. I laughed my head off at this livery. What a brilliant, brilliant livery. And I'm going to steal your joke from earlier, Paul. I think this is the one time you probably won't want to see that livery or that car paint on 3 wheels like a Reliant Robin. This is probably the one time he'll want that on 4s, won't he?
Oh, very much so indeed. I mean, if he does end up in 3 wheels, I can assure you that all the Del Boy and Rodney quotes will be coming out left, right and centre. Well, copyright excluded, of course.
Exactly. Let's see how Steve Cox gets on today in his first race of the season, the same as Joseph Houston here in a very nice Red Bull replica livery. It's very similar to the Blancpain McLaren livery from a few years ago. Quite like the look of that one at the moment. So let's see how the drivers get on tonight. They've been categorised in the AM category, presumably by iRacing. iRacing, if you're not aware, ladies and gentlemen, is the rating system for drivers on iRacing in the official races, basically to determine the skill of the driver based on the results they've had in their iRacing career. The better you do in races, the higher your rating goes up, and of course if you have bad racing, it goes down. And most of the AM category drivers are those who are classified below 3,000, I believe, in this series. So that's where Houston, as he takes a spin coming out of the chicane there, and hopefully get himself back on the track, get him round, and hopefully get 2 more laps in. He's got enough time to do that. But that's what we're going to see a lot of tonight in those corners. We saw it last season, Paul. Going through Brundle and Nelson, it's very easy to get the car loose through those corners.
Well, indeed, it's a very sudden change of momentum in the car, and the fact that weight transfer as well. You're trail braking into a left-hander, and then you've got to settle the car down for even more heavy braking into a right-hander, where you want to get on the throttle, you want to brake, and then turn the car into the apex and get on the throttle, full throttle immediately. And it's imagine that weight transfer and the shift of the car through those 2 corners, which causes the rear to snap loose, and, well, the driver who can balance that best will be able to come up on top in the race. And, well, speaking of coming out on top, Liam McNeilly has taken provisional pole by what is 3.5 hundredths over Chris Staines, who's still in the pit lane.
He has. Chris Staines seemed to think he did enough, but Liam McNeilly says, nope, not today. But on this last lap, I think William Chadwick has had the draft from Liam McNeilly, so let's see how William gets on this lap. The Ginetta Junior driver towing him along. Chadwick crosses the line, doesn't go any higher. I think he may have gone quicker on his time. I think the difference changed, but he's still a 10th off of his teammate. But these 2 drivers, we kind of alluded to it interviewing them last week, didn't we, Paul? They're teammates, but they're also championship rivals. How are we going to see that dynamic change as the season progresses? What do you think's going to happen?
So, for me personally, what I would love to see is them to work together over the next 3 rounds. So, this round, round 8, and round 9. So that way they're practically equal in points like they are now going into the final round. And then in the final round, they say, right, gloves off. We just go for it tooth and nail at Le Mans to decide who is the championship winner. With Mikey Doble in there, of course, as an outside element if the two of them take one another out. Not that we'd expect them to, but you never know what can happen between teammates. That's what I would love to see. I think the team dynamic at Fordzilla is a really interesting one. They seem to put the team results first, but as they get later in the season, they are starting to show those little moments of wanting to go racing against one another. So I have to wait and see, but that's what I'm praying for.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll come back to talking about Mikey Doble shortly. Everyone's about to complete their laps here in qualifying. Chadwick and McNeilly are going to come into the pits. They've decided, yep, that's enough. And who else is crossing the line? They were the two Crest Autosport drivers crossing the line, William Foyle and Nigel Stock. Nigel Stock 19th. He's third in the AM category championship. He'll consider disappointed about that one, I think Nigel will. But, you know, Nigel has been quite a dark horse in this season, just racking up good, consistent results and keeping his nose out of trouble. And that's how he's got himself third in the championship. So let's see how he gets on tonight. His teammate William Foyle, third in category, 11th overall. That's good for him. It puts him into reverse grid contention as well as a good position in his category. Let's see who else is crossing the line. We have got Dan Skinner heading towards the line. He was a race winner back at Red Bull Ring all them weeks ago for round 1. He'll cross the line. Let's see if he gets higher than 15th. Across the line he goes. No improvement from Dan Skinner then, and another driver crossed the line then. That was the 212 machine of, looking down the number list, Alan McCain crossed the line. He did not improve either by the looks of it. We've got another driver coming down the back straight here. In fact, a lot of drivers have decided to abort their laps right about now. Wayne Douglas is heading around the corner here. We've also got, I think that's Nigel Stock heading through the final corner there. Let's see if he can improve on his time. We've got Jamie Nicholson out on track as well. Nigel Stock will come into the pits. Wayne Douglas ran a bit wide there. That might be a 1x, but has decided to go to the line anyway. So this might well be our grid for the first race. Wayne Douglas will be happy with 10th on the grid, though, I reckon. 10th in the championship as well. So it's relatively consistent with what he's been performing this season. Let's see how Nicholson gets on here in 16th. Can he bump it up into the top 15? He can't. We are going to progress on into the race. The server says no. So let's move on and let's get our grid read through for this opening race of the night. On the front row of the grid for race 1 here at round 7 at Snetterton, Liam McNeilly will line up pole position with Chris Staines in 2nd position. William Chadwick right behind his teammate on the front of the grid here, on the right side of the grid, left from our point of view, and Mikey Doble, their championship rival, alongside him 4th. Jamie Dory in 5th position with Aidan Wilson in 6th. Lee Horne will line up first of the AM category drivers in 7th with Michael Leese in 8th position. Nick Clibbins lines up 9th with Wayne Douglas rounding off the top 10. William Foyle 3rd in category, 11th on the track with championship leader in the AM category Sam Smith in 12th. Rob McGregor will line up 13th with John Higgins Jr. in 14th position. Dan Skinner lining up 15th. Jamie Nicholson 16th with John Higgins Sr. in 17th. Alan McCain will line up 19th with Nigel Stock in 19th. Joseph Hewson, his debut today in 20th with Dan James in 21st, Steve Cox in 22nd, Paul Scott in 23rd, and late joining the server, Adam Delmont has joined in and will start from the back of the grid. Adam Delmont has not had a good season by his, what he reckons is his standards, and he'll be looking for a big charge through the field to get to the top, to get involved in the racing at the front. But we still got the drivers lining up on the grid. Quickly, Paul, who's your money on for race 1?
My money for race 1 is going to be on Chris Staines. I think he's going to find a way to get to lead of the pack, and then he's not going to let it go without a fight.
You know what? You haven't picked Chris Staines yet this season, so that's an interesting call, Paul. Yep, let's have a go here. A lot of good lucks on the chats coming through from YouTube and Facebook. A lot of supporters watching in. Let us know who your favourite driver is in the field. Let us know who you think's going to win this race on the chats. And we're about to get underway for this first race tonight, and I think it is going to be a cracking race. We're about to find out as the lights will be started by our start marshal here at Snetterton. 5 lights will go red, and then we'll go racing. away we go at Snetterton, and it looks like a pretty good start from Liam McNeilly as he leads the grid away up towards turn 1, but Chris Staines has also had a pretty good opening stretch here. To the outside he goes, going around the first corner, but it's the top 4 remaining as is at the moment. Through we go. Oh, and there's a big sideways moment there from William Chadwick. Let's get a better view. Oh, and there's a driver off at the back there. Couldn't quite see who it was, but most drivers get into turn 1 here relatively safe. There is a driver off on the grass at the background. Can't quite see who that is, but it looks like it's relatively safe at the moment. Side by side action between Mikey Doble and Chadwick there. Doble swerving to avoid the contact from Chadwick. And heading down towards Brundle here, we've got Doble struggling for internet already in this race. Let's see if that can recover as the racing progresses through these first few laps and corners. Into 4th place now is Chadwick, with Doble right ahead of him, who's still having internet difficulties, and that's going to be really distracting for Chadwick as he's trying to catch up with the 2 at the front, try and stay in contention with the 2 at the front. McNeilly leads the way though, heading into this final corner. Good start for McNeilly here, Paul.
Oh, indeed. McNeilly nailing the start there, and Chris Staines staying with him at quite a sedate start, to be fair. The only driver we had go off come out through turn number 1 up towards 2 was Nick Clibbins, who ran a bit wide, but as they come to the timeline, it's McNeilly leading ahead of Danes, followed by Doble just ahead of Chadwick, but it does seem as though Mikey Doble are having some major connectivity issues, and I think it might be the case of stewards after this race have a chat to about that one, what can be done. Jamie Dory battling with Aidan Wilson up into turn 1 there in the battle for P5. He's gained the place and hold off the HSR drivers. They roll the way on through, with Lee Horne then following behind, leader of the AM class, and then Michael Lees with a little bit of a drop off the road there coming out of turn number 1. He's battling right now with John Higgins. Rob McGregor goes up the inside here, trying to follow his HSR teammate through, but he can't do so as it goes from right to left, and they now make their way down the Bentley straight. But look at Dan Skinner there. He's jumped quite a few places already, Alex. He's up to P11 and now starting to get into the fight for P10.
Yeah, 4 places gained for Dan Skinner into 11th place. He's got himself away from that reverse grid danger that is 15th place. I mean, it's a good place to finish 15th. You get pole for the next race, but you don't want to finish any lower than that because you'll be out of contention with your rivals. But also a big gainer is John Higgins Jr. Oh, it's wide in the back there is Michael Lees. He's really having a difficult lap here. He went wide at turn 1, and he went wide again at that corner there, and he lets through Rob McGregor into 9th place. 4 places gained for Rob McGregor. It's a good start to this race for the HSR drivers. All of them are pretty much gained places on these opening 2 laps of the race here. And there's not much movement in the top 7. In fact, the top 7 have remained where they are, where they were at the start of the race. So it's all happening towards the midfield here. Oh, Nigel Stock has had a moment somewhere. That's a spin coming out at the final corner there for Nigel Stock, and that's going to put him well out of touch with the front runners here. So he's here with Steve Cox, and into the final corner he goes. Just runs a little bit too deep, and it gets sideways as he tries to force the steering into the corner, and it didn't quite work. The back end gave way on the Crest Autosport Mazda MX-5 there for him. Right, towards the front here, we've got Aidan Wilson, who has moved ahead of Jamie Dory. Here's how it happened, and it is heading into turn 1, outbraking going into the corner. Nice easy move. When you get the inside going into turn 1, Paul, it's pretty much done and dusted, isn't it?
Indeed it is, because if you find yourself on the outside, you just do not have the ability to carry the speed due to understeer through the corner. But as we come back to the live pictures now, Chris Staines ahead of Liam McNeilly, and we believe this pass has happened down the Bentley straight as we do look back here, and well, side by side up the straight and coming up into Brundle into Nelson here. You can see how McNeilly backing out. They're not trying to make it too wide in the run through, and they've just swapped places for now. But I think we're going to see a bit of back and forth here. I think they're starting to try and work together, albeit it's temporary teamwork to break away from the rest of the field. You can see Mikey Doble there in P4. He's currently 6/10 off and losing out a little bit, but further back we do have Jamie Dory, Aidan Wilson and Lee Horne in our second pack, if you will, and Jamie Dory going very defensive there into Riches.
Yes, he is. He might be trying to help out his teammate here. His teammate is trying to get on course for an AM category championship win, of course. And he might be trying to help him out a little bit. But let's move to the front here. Look at the Fordzilla cars. Right on the outside goes William Chadwick, going into Wilson hairpin, but he runs deep. And he's going to be side by side with his teammate. And that allows Chris Staines to get a very good run onto the Bentley straight. And that stretches him away from these drivers behind and keeps him safe for the time being. The Fordzilla drivers have to sort out amongst themselves themselves who's going to have the corner, and in fact they've already decided. Chadwick slots in behind McNeilly, and that's going to bring Mikey Doble back into contention for this battle for top spot here. Fortilla drivers, we saw this last time, not just from them drivers actually. Always, we got a good run here from McNeilly to the inside, going into bomb hole we go. Chris Daines has to run out wide, a little bit of gravel on the outside, but on the inside going into Coram now is McNeilly, and who have the outside going into Murray's, but he might be able to finish it off before he gets to Murray's. Through he goes, and can Chris Daines get later on the race? He might be able to, you know. Oh, it's so close between the two, but a brilliant move completed by McNeilly there, and now Chris Daines is under the cosh from William Chadwick. And here we go. It's just a case here, Paul, that when you lose momentum on this track, you lose positions.
Oh, indeed, and as they battle their way down the start-finish straight in towards Rich's corner at turn 1, you see Chadwick holding the inside there, now really putting Daines in the danger zone with regards to losing momentum as Daines is forced to take the wider line, and he runs a little bit onto the grass, and this will bring Mikey Doble right up into contention, coming down into the braking zone for Wilson Hairpin, and as Chadwick gains the place, oh, goodness me, was there contact there with Chris Daines and Mikey Doble? Looks like there was a knock, but as we come back here to the replay feed, we'll see Chris Daines goes a little bit wide, Mikey Doble gains the momentum, and under braking here, I think, was there a tap?
No.
Well, that looks like a netcode tap.
Yeah, huge netcode. I mean, we saw Chris Daines and Mikey Doble were both having internet difficulties, and that just shows it. Huge. It wasn't. It was huge netcode, not huge contact. And Chris Daines he probably won't realise that. Oh, is Mikey Doble's off here? Is he trying to let by Chris Daines? I'm not too sure. Let's have a look what's happened here to Mikey Doble. Oh, he runs a little bit wide going into Brundle. There, he goes straight on there. Oh, this is very, very strange indeed. I think there are a few internet gremlins out on the track today, Paul.
Oh, indeed. I feel also Mikey Doble there. I think he was a little bit worried about the fact he got it wrong coming down to the braking zone into
yeah,
Brundle.
there goes Chris Daines.
I think he chucked it off.
Yeah,
and there he's gave the pace back.
Yeah, I think that's what Mikey Doble's trying to do, although he's letting by more and more cars. So we retain the replay there, and there we go, gets himself back up to full speed. I wonder if he was trying to sort out his internet one-handed whilst driving, to be honest. But that loses him a lot of positions. A lot of positions indeed, as further down the order, Nick Clibbens, oh, he's had an incident with Sam Smith, I think. Nick Clibbens has got it all wrong going into Murray's by the looks of it. His drives around, that's Wayne Douglas behind him and ahead of him. One of the HSR cars. Oh, and a big dive there from Wayne Douglas. That did not work for Wayne Douglas. Didn't quite have enough of the car alongside there, did he, Paul?
No, he didn't. You could see what he's trying to do, and then Sam Smith getting it wrong and having to take evasive action in the process as he made his way through the quote-unquote the debris field of Mazda MX-5s. But come back to Wayne Douglas, just a little bit over-enthusiastic under braking. He was going in the right place of mind, but he just was coming from too far back. We all learn from that one, I reckon, as we come back here to Jamie Dorey, who's leading in P3.
Yeah, very good battle here between him, Aidan Wilson and Lee Horne. They've been having a battle all race long, but John Higgins Jr., biggest gainer of the field with 8 places gained at the moment. Brilliant start to his night indeed. Been a bit quiet this season, John Higgins Jr. has the few good results here and there, but generally has been keeping himself in the mid-pack this season, but this is looking like a good result indeed. So let's see how he gets on for the remainder of the race. We've just gone over the halfway points, so plenty of action still to go. Lee Horne leads in the AM category. He's well clear of his rivals. Michael Leese is the closest driver, and he's all the way back here. But Lee Horne, he did say in a few interviews at the start of the season, a few good results here and there, but generally he was struggling. But now he's really hitting the big numbers in this category.
Oh, indeed, and as we do look here too, that's why the HSR driver is going very deep into Wilson Hairpin, and that's Aidan Wilson. Well, it's the namesake of the corner, but he's got it wrong. But you can see it, Lee Horne gaining another place, and I think Horne just enjoying this whole battle of running amongst the pros as the AM driver here and staying with them, getting a little bit involved, but also staying with their pace. We saw that at Silverstone, and he did talk about it, the fact that he was running with the drivers, he wasn't getting heavily involved, and he's doing it again here, and it's working out wonders. But to be fair, credit to Michael Leese, who right now has got William Foyle bearing down in 1 second behind, and Leese has been battling with Skinner. He is trying to get past Skinner right now, and he's made a couple of moves off camera, and right now it is the case that Skinner's really having to go defensive.
He is indeed, but just going to revert to Mikey Doble here. Got it well out of shape coming out of the corner then. Let's just take a quick replay of it. Yeah, very wide there. Didn't hit the apex and went wide at the corner. That's one of those corners you really have to get your line absolutely perfect or you are going to run wide. It's not happening for Mikey Doble. I've got a feeling the internet issues are really distracting him, which is unsurprising, to be honest. But this really isn't what Mikey Doble needs at this point in the season.
No, definitely not. And as he comes across the timeline right now, I think he may see this race as more of a practice race right now. But one driver who's definitely not seen it as a practice race, who's practicing his overtaking technique here at Snetterton, Michael Lee. So he tries to look for the move versus Skinner there to Rich's corner, but does not get it quite hooked up. And instead has to go defensive now versus William Foyle, who looks the inside here. And Lee's is going to use the outside to inside run and try and make Foyle back out. But Foyle's having none of it, but he takes 2 wheels to the grass there, being given the minimum amount of room. And now it's a drag race down towards what is Brundlewood to Nelson as they come roaring on down here. Well, Foyle is behind right now, but he's in the draft. He will have the overspeed. He looks for it, but he's got to keep in mind if he takes the inside, he'll be on the outside going through Nelson. He's going to Dare to Dream as they trail break the way into left into right combo. And you see Michael Lees goes under steering wide there, but they give space to one another, and Lees holds on versus Foyle as they now make the way to bomb hole corner. But behind that is Jamie Nicholson, who's closed up drastically, and it's a three-way fight for P2 in the AM class.
And Mikey Doble catching up as well, trying to get his race on, back on track of course, but a 4-way battle now for this position. There's quite a lot of them happening out on track, especially further up here. John Higgins Jr., 10 places gained. He's got himself past his teammate Aidan Wilson and past Lee Horne for 4th place overall here, and he's looking for a top 3, not only overall but in his category. That's a big haul of points for Higgins Jr. here, and he's got his teammate to help him out there. It is HSR drivers versus next gen drivers. A brilliant battle we're going to see for the final 3 to 4 minutes in this race. Now let's see how Chris Daines is getting on. He's back into 7th place, and he's going to be catching up with his pack just up ahead. 3rd is not off the cards here, Paul. He's got a chance of getting 3rd still.
Oh, indeed, and his lap times are showing it right now. He is running faster than that pack from P3 down to P6. So it is the case, if he carries on this momentum, he may be able to close up towards the final lap. So I think he's got to worry about Rob McGregor here. And to be fair, Rob McGregor, I don't think he's going to be too patient. The Scotsman has been looking for some big results all season. He's getting very close to the back of Daines down the back straight here. Doesn't go for it this time, but I suspect if Daines isn't close enough to go on the offensive versus Lee Horne and company, well, to be fair, he's 3.1 seconds back. It's going to be a big venture. I think we could see here instead Daines having to defend versus McGregor and Skinner for the remainder of the race as we ride on the nose here, and you can just give a feeling of how far away those MX-5s are up ahead as he rolls his way out Farouk Oram corner. I think it's the case Daines might have to settle for defending now.
Yes, potentially. There are another 2 races tonight, and anything can happen. We saw it last season at this track, and we saw it in the Legends series months and months ago. This is a track where you need a bit of luck. You know, a lot of drivers don't believe in luck, but you do need it on a track like this. Side by side for P3 though, John Higgins Jr., big blast around the outside going around turn 1, and he's through into 3rd place. 11 places gained now for Higgins Jr. He defends going into Wilson. Jamie Dory very deep going into the corner. That might allow Aidan Wilson through. It might just do as Jamie Dory blinks in and out of internet connectivity, and it is spooked Aidan Wilson, I think, a little bit, because they've dropped back a little bit from John Higgins Jr., but it's side by side between the two as we head down towards Brundle corner. It's swapping and changing between William Chadwick and Liam McNeilly. They're far out in front, so they're just going to have a fun battle here. This is what we were mentioning earlier, Paul. This is now where they start to battle for the championship, but granted, this might well be for a bit more fun rather than all-out competitiveness.
Oh, indeed. And as they roll the way through Coram corner here, Chadwick taking the lead of the two of them. It's almost as if they're having a little bit of a sparring match here in terms of it's not full-blooded combat in terms of battling for the lead, but at the same time, they're sizing one another up. They get to feel, okay, I'll take the inside line into this corner, and as a result, the other driver gives them the respect and gives them the racing room. But you can imagine when it comes down to it later in the season, that's where we might see the niceties just fade away a little bit here. But again, Chadwick defended to the inside, McNeilly being made to go around the outside here. I think they're experimenting with those lines as well, particularly for race 2 that'll be coming up, where it's going to be a top 15 reverse, and then race number 3 when it's a full reverse. They're using this to understand when they can make those passes on the opening laps.
Yeah, that's something I actually wanted to allude to earlier. There was a lot of drivers, we saw it at Silverstone, that they're experimenting with the best places to position their car on such a fast track like this, and that's what race 1 it was all about last time out, and I got a feeling it was a bit like that last time out at Silverstone. I just reverted to Aidan Wilson here because he did have contact with Jamie Dory, but it seems it's okay. John Higgins Jr. is well in the clear of this battle here, but Paul, you might be able to find out for me, Paul. Is this the final lap, or are we going to get another lap? I'm not entirely sure, but these two are going at it, hammer and tongs, trying to get that front spot, so I got a feeling this is the final lap.
It is. I think it is. They're not going to quite get another lap here. It's about a 22-second run through the final couple of corners, and McNeilly defending now on the inside into Coram. I think he's been able to get it here, and there's only one more corner remaining as they make the way through the left-hander, and now it's going to be a drag race to the line, and the Team Fordzilla driver McNeilly, I think he's done it, Alex. He's got the momentum for as he comes to the line. Well, here's the checkered flag.
Yep, there we go. Liam McNeilly just about gets it. Another win in the books for Liam McNeilly. Chadwick second place, and what a performance from this guy. John Higgins Jr. 11 places gained to third place, and he gets to taste the champagne after race one here. Well, maybe at the end of the day, but a brilliant performance from John Higgins Jr. First in the AM category goes to Lee Horne, and sixth overall. He'd be very pleased with that. Michael Lee second in AM category with William Fall rounding off in 11th overall and third in category. Reverse grid pole will go to Alan McCain, however, who gets 15th position and will start on pole for the next race. A big advantage for him at the front of the grid in the next one. 3 places gained to get himself into 15th as well. Well done to Alan McCain indeed. What a race we had there, Paul. It was there was instincts in there like we thought there would be, but there's a lot of good racing as well.
Oh, most definitely. I think the driver of the race here is John Higgins Jr. battling his way up the order, gaining 11 places, and it wasn't through inherited positions when other drivers had taken one off. We did see some contacts, which he capitalised on, but he really had to go 2 for now. But up and down the field, as you say, Alex, fantastic racing. And the biggest surprise, that incident between Mikey Doble and Chris Daines, but Mikey Doble being the absolute gentleman and giving the place back. But in return, he's finished P12. It will put him P4 on the reverse grid for race number 2. But I do wonder whether his sportsmanship might be coming back to bite him in the backside now.
Yeah, well, he might look at that instant later and regret it, judging by how much netcode there was. But you know what? Drivers react to them sort of things like, oh no, I've messed up, I've hit that driver, or oh no, that driver hit me, and all that. But, you know, they'll look at that later and just think, wow, how on earth have we had netcode that bad? It's a dirty word in iRacing, netcode is. It's something iRacing said they're going to work on, but by the looks of it here, it's not really taking a great effect. But hey ho, we'll see how things progress as the night goes on. So we'll round off the results here. Paul Walsh, please do give us the results of race 3 here.
Will do, Alex. So after race number 1 here at Snetterton in round 7 of the MX-5 Cup Season 2, it is Liam McNeilly who took the win in the end by 2.5 tenths ahead of William Chadwick. The 2 drivers up front for Team Fordzilla, 3rd place overall, and on the pro podium going to John Higgins Jr. in a superb run, gaining 11 places. P4 to Jamie Dory ahead of Aidan Wilson P5, 2 rivals. We expect the rivalry to continue to the next race. And then it was Lee Horne who brought home P6 and took home the AM win in race number 1. A brilliant drive there for the NXTGEN Racing Team Orange driver. Chris Daines P7, Dan Skinner P8, Rob McGregor P9, Michael Lees completing the overall top 10, taking P2 in the AM class, and William Fall completing the AM podium there, P11. Mikey Doble P12, Jamie Nicholson at P13, Dan James P14, and Alan McCain P15. It will be the AM driver of McCain, Lively and Clark Racing, who will be taking pole for race number 2. John Higgins P60 just missed out on reverse pole, with Paul Scott P17, Wayne Douglas P18, Nick Clivers P19, and Sam Smith P20. And then Nigel stopped P21 ahead of Joseph Hewson and Steve Cox P23. And I do believe it's the case, Adam Delmont did not make it to the grid for race number 1.
There we go. They were your results of race 1 of the night. And we'll see Alan McCain on pole position for the next race. That has been the opening race of the night here, round 7 at Snetterton for the NXTGEN Racing MX-5 Cup. Alex Everett here, and alongside me, Paul Walsh. Don't go away, ladies and gentlemen. Whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch, we'll be back in just a few moments' time for the next race of the night, which is another 15-minute sprint race. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Cold at the touch, dead in the eyes, no signs of life no more. I put your love under the knife. Leave me to die here all alone. No signs of life no more, no. A crying dove may never fly. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. It's black and white. Come on. Black and white, just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. It's black and white. Black and white.
Welcome back, everyone, to Snetterton for round 7 of the Next Gen Racing MX-5 Cup here on Monday nights, UK time. Alex Everett here alongside me, Paul Walsh, and we are about to deliver to you race 2 of the night here at Snetterton. Race 1, well, one word kind of sums it up. It is netcode. And we are having a lot of that in the racing here. It's having a little bit of an impact on the way drivers are racing with not one another. And Paul, I'm going to hand it over to you because you probably describe it a bit more eloquently than me. But for those who are not quite aware, what is netcode?
So, long story short, netcode is essentially the internet connectivity in a race. So the best way of thinking about it is when you're connecting to a race, you're coming via the internet. And in the racing itself, you want a consistent connection. Now, if you're not doing anything downloading or anything on your PC, you should have a consistent connection. But sometimes the actual hosting service, so iRacing in this case, can be a little bit inconsistent. And therefore, that can start to play tricks with our drives. We saw particularly the contacts that we had between Crest and Mikey Doble, where they looked as though they were nowhere near one another. And it's very likely from their perspectives, they weren't touching one another. But iRacing, due to the fact there's a bit of internet trouble on the iRacing service side, it's the case that the service registered them as making contact. And that's what happens when you have what is called bad netcode, where essentially the cars are not in the places that they appear to be. Sounds a bit confusing, but you can imagine from our drivers' perspectives, they think they're in one location, how the iRacing thinks they're elsewhere, and that's what leads to those nightmare scenarios where suddenly contact happens, but you were never touching one another, and vice versa. And that makes it a bit more difficult for our drivers to be able to gauge overtake. So I suspect now as we go into race number 2, there will be some hesitancy to make moves. Alternatively, drivers will make really obvious moves. That's a way to work around it, where you declare very early on going into a braking zone that I am coming up the inside, do not defend it, I'm going for a lunge. So we might see some rather aggressive lunges as well. But that's netcode in a nutshell and how it can play into the racing.
There we go, everyone. Paul Walsh, tap to 1, first 2. Brilliant. Yeah, that is the best description of netcode I've ever heard. Now, we don't like to highlight the flaws of sim racing / iRacing on these broadcasts, but we mention it here because, as Paul said, it is going to affect the racing. If drivers are going to be a little more hesitant, they're going to be a little bit more careful around one another, particularly with their teammates. They don't want to end up in a situation where they make contact with the driver, and whether it's netcode or not, it does still risk penalties with the stewards in the post-race reviews of these races, which happen during the week, in between each race. Oh, as we're seeing a lot of rubbing and bashing between the Fordzilla drivers. I think they might be trying to test the limits of the netcode here, Paul. Do you reckon?
Oh, most definitely. The fact they're running around like this right now, making bits of contact, they're trying to see where the stability is in the race server, if you will, and seeing where it breaks. And they use this practice very effectively. And I think a number of drivers might be trying to do this right now, just gauge just how difficult it is going to be to race. And why not do it in an extended practice session rather than in the race itself?
Yes, and Paul says extended practice session. You may have noticed in the top left it says 20 minutes for practice here. It might not be a 20-minute session, but what the hosts have done very conveniently for the drivers is extended the time to get into this practice session, which means we might be on air a little bit longer. We might have to sit in these warm-up sessions a little bit longer, but it's to allow the drivers to connect to the server because it might be difficult for them. Things are running a little bit slower on iRacing's side tonight for the drivers. So it's given them a chance to get in with plenty of time. There's quite a lot of the drivers already in, but I think we are still waiting for a few more drivers to get in. But it gives us a chance to talk about more things that is Next Gen and MX-5. And speaking of Next Gen, Paul, Next Gen has got some great leagues coming up. Once the Proto GT3 League ends, we've got something Porsche related coming up. And also Thursday nights, touring cars are coming to iRacing and Next Gen.
Oh, most definitely, and it is the case. Well, you say touring cars, my ears automatically prick up, but we've got an absolutely ram-packed schedule with regards to touring car racing, and I do believe it is the case that we have also got on the horizon a Porsche Super Cup cars. That is the Porsche 992 Cup car, and the schedules of both of those series will be aligned, much like it is the case that we do have in some instances the Porsche Super Cup series following the schedule of the British Touring Car Championship series. We're trying to replicate that effectively over the course of each individual week of racing, so plenty to come, and we do have some big names trying to take part in the series as well as our great sim racing drivers here, and it's plenty to look out for. But that's not to say that the MX-5 Cup isn't going to keep us interested, nor the Proto GT3 Championship, but it is the case that Next Gen really are putting on a load of spectacles as 2022 continues on through.
Exactly, and I think there are plans for Next Gen to keep the MX-5 Cup going for Monday nights into a third season as well. So look at what's coming up on Next Gen on iRacing. We have got Porsche Super Cup, we have got the MX-5s here on Monday, and we've got touring cars on Thursday. What a collection of racing that is coming up over the end of summer, start of autumn here at Next Gen Racing. Very much looking forward to all that kicking off indeed. We are still waiting for a few drivers to join the service, so we will hang them out in practice here while everyone joins the server. And something we haven't done tonight is reflect on, well, we have done it a little bit, but we'll go through the schedule that's coming up for the remainder of the season. So you can see we're really in the latter part of the season here. We started off all them weeks ago, nearly 2 months ago now, at the Red Bull Ring for round 1 of the championship. Then we went in, headed over here to the UK for the Knockhill International Circuit for round 2 of the championship. South to Kent for Brands Hatch for round 3 of the championship, and then venturing northwest to Cheshire for Alton Park International Circuit. Over to East Belgium for the Spa-Francorchamps 2-hour endurance, and what a round that was, with a very close finish to the field despite the 2-hour lengthy race. Expect to see similar for Le Mans later in the season. But round 6 was last week, and what a round that was at the Silverstone National Circuit. round 7 here today, which is the Snetterton 200 layout. And next week we're over the pond in the States, in the New York State, for Watkins Glen Cup layout. And that is the shortened layout, but with the bus stop chicane. And a very, very fast layout indeed. And that's going to see plenty of side-by-side action. It's going to be tricky to overtake, but it's going to see exciting racing, because when we've seen these guys on tracks that are difficult to overtake on, it's made the racing even more exciting, because they have to push it that extra bit harder to get themselves into the positions above. Then we've got oval racing here in these MX-5s, something I haven't really seen before. In MX-5 drivers on MX-5 cars, should I say, on ovals, and we've taken it to the Daytona International Speedway in Florida for round 9 of the championship on Independence Day, weirdly enough, which is a great celebration. So it's going to be exciting to watch that race on the 4th of July for round 9, the penultimate round of the championship. Then we'll head over to France to finish it all off at the Le Mans permanent course, a part street circuit, seeing these cars go down the Mulsanne straight, all those chicanes, the famous Indianapolis corner, the famous Porsche curves, the Ford curves as well, the final chicane, the infamous chicane, to finish off the lap at Le Mans. It's going to be great to see these cars and these drivers battle it out for the final round of the championship on the 11th of July at Le Mans for round 10 of the championship. Looking forward to that round in particular. It's one of my favourite tracks, is Le Mans. What is your favourite track, ladies and gentlemen? Let us know on the chat, on whether you're watching on Facebook via NXTGEN Racing TV, or YouTube, or Twitch on Crest Autosport TV. Let us know what your favourite track is. But we are going to revert over to the race. Everyone's in the server, and here is the grid for the second race of the night. Alan McCain will start on pole position here, with Dan James lining up second alongside him. Jamie Nicholson third place, with Mikey Doble, a disappointing first race for him, out of his control of course, but he lines up fourth on the grid. William Foyle in fifth position, with Michael Leese in sixth. Rob McGregor will line up seventh, with Dan Skinner in eighth. Chris Staines dropped down the order due to contact with Mikey Doble, or netcode with Mikey Doble. He'll start 9th. Lee Horne in 10th, with Aidan Wilson 11th. Jamie Dory in 12th position. 13th will go to John Higgins Jr. with that brilliant race in race 1. And William Chadwick will start 14th, with race 1 winner Liam McNeilly starting 15th. John Higgins Sr. lines up 16th, with Paul Scott in 17th, Wayne Douglas 18th, with Nick Clibbens in 19th, Sam Smith 20th, Nigel Stock in 21st, and we also have Joseph Hewson and Adam Delmont on the grid. Let's see if Adam Delmont takes to the grid this time around. But we're going to get underway for this second race of the night. Alan McCain on pole position, with Dan James alongside, and away we go. It's a very good start actually from Alan McCain. He gets away from Dan James very well, and Dan James might be under a little bit of trouble from Jamie Nicholson as we head towards turn 1. Long right-hander double apex coming up right now for the drivers. Through we go, and it's a good start for Alan McCain as he stretches away from these drivers heading through turn 1. Up towards turn 2 we go. Got a lot of drivers here in the middle, squabbling for position. Up the inside there goes Chris Staines on William Full, and it's send round Rob McGregor, and it's caused all kinds of havoc towards the back here, and Rob McGregor in a whole spot of trouble there, and it all came from a big dive down the inside from Chris Staines, and him and William Ford got away with that. But towards the front here, it's a big situation here, where Mikey Doble has already put himself into a potentially race leading situation. Into the lead he goes, past Alan McCain and Dan James. Brilliant start to the race from Mikey Doble there, Paul.
Oh, indeed. Mikey Doble definitely coming out of the starting blocks on fire. But look at Chris Staines, who's already up into P6. I mean, a bit of controversy regarding his pass down into Wilson hairpin, but he's also trying to replicate Mikey Doble here. And I think he sees that if Doble's allowed to run away with this right now, with the leader already 1.6 seconds clear, and they're not even through the end of the first lap yet, it is the case that he'll be running off, and he may not be called again. But Dane's playing pursuit as we see that. Also, that's McNeilly coming from the inside into the final corner there, cutting his way up past Michael Leese and Will Fordzilla on a charge as well. We do have that reverse grid really coming through, as we've got a couple of drivers right now coming into the pits with damage to the cars by the looks of things. And there we do have it, John Higgins Jr. battling for position as William Fowl, and also we've got that Aidan Wilson into the pits, Alex. Well, I wonder if that's for the contact on lap number 1, turn 2.
Yeah, it might have been a big heavy contact, and the internet difficulties might have had an impact on the amount of damage accumulated to the cars. They've come in to take their fast repair. They'll be hoping for a safety car to help them catch back up the order later on, but they've got to sit in the pits and wait for everything to go through on the fast repairs, which are allocated to the drivers. One fast repair per race to these drivers. But Mikey Doble romping away at the front, nearly 3 seconds clear, as back here we've got Alan McCain and Jamie Nixon battling. Chris Daines joins the battle, and Liam McNeilly is back there in 6th place, really hammering it down to catch up. Chris Daines takes the undercut on Alan McCain there, and he's about to go through into 2nd place. What a brilliant move there from Chris Daines to get himself into 2nd place, and look who else is trying at it now. Up the inside of Alan McCain goes Liam McNeilly, really putting his foot down to get himself up the order as quick as he possibly can, stretching it away from one of his championship rivals, William Chadwick, and also getting closer to his teammate, his other championship rival, Mikey Doble. But back there we had a big incident there that involved Dan James, and he's stuck there on the track as drivers pass him by. Let's see what happened there. I saw it was very close between him and Michael Leese here. Heading into the chicane we go. Oh, there is contact between him and Michael Leese there, and we saw a very similar move in race 1, didn't we, Paul? Where they're just firing up the inside, going into Murray's a little bit too eagerly.
Oh, indeed. And just as we were watching the sequence of cars coming out the corner, I could see Michael Leese go up the inside. I thought to myself, we're going to see exactly what happened in what was race number 1, and it was confirmed. I think Leese there, again, just being a little bit enthusiastic with the brake pedal on that inside line. To be fair, I think the stewards will take a look at that one after the race. But as they make the way now down the back straight here, we can see it is the case. Adam Delmont being given a push along by Lee Horne here. The Pro being pushed by the AM driver from NXTGEN. And as they make the way under the bridge here into Brundle and then Nelson, it is the case that Delmont, well, he made it to the grid this time around, and so far he's come up the order. He's come all the way from the back of the grid. He's up to P10 already. That is the equivalent of P7 in the Pro class, and Delmont really now started to try and push on and get some points, but he does have some rather tricky AM drives to get on through. And one thing we did talk about, Alex, Jamie Nicholson up into the lead of the AM class, P4 overall. He seemed to find his way through when it was the case that McNeilly and Daines were coming through, and Nicholson, to be fair, not letting the pros daunt him at all.
No, he's just he's dropped 1 place from where he started, but he has just kept himself out of trouble here, and he's maintained the lead in category at the moment. He's got past Alan McCain as well, so that is job well done indeed for Jamie Nixon. That's all he needs to do. He's well clear of a lot of his rivals, and he's been towed along by the top dogs of this series, of course, right ahead of him. McNeilly and Daines battling it out, who will presumably try and work together a little bit to catch up with Mikey Doble, but that's no small feat, that is, catching up 4 seconds to our defending champion, 3 times champion on Monday nights here at NXTGEN Racing. Mikey Doble leading away here. His last race win for Mikey Doble came ages ago. In fact, it was Brands Hatch was his last win, so could he be about to step back onto that top step of the podium? Let's see. 17 places gained for Adam Delmont into 7th place. He has gone for this race, and back here we've got a big battle going into Brundle. Michael Leese is on the outside here, but through goes Rob McGregor to take the position onto 2 wheels as he hops the car through. Sam Smith's behind him as well. He's hoping to get his race back on track, as in race 1 it didn't quite go well for him, but 10 places gained to 10th place at the moment. Good start for Sam Smith as them two stretch away from this pack behind. John Higgins Jr. had a bad start to the race, ran off the track heading through this corner here. Murray's on lap 1, but John Higgins Jr., if we saw it in race 1, Paul, he can do it again here in race 2, where he catches back up the order into the higher positions.
Oh, indeed. And Higgins right now having to play a very slow but smart game here. He's got Jamie Dory tucked in behind him, a fellow pro driver, and Dan Skinner not too far behind. And Higgins will be wary of the fact that Leese and Smith in front of him are 2 AM drivers battling for what is P4 in the AM class here. So John Higgins Jr. needs to be sensible. He needs to pick the time where he takes them one by one. As we do see a little bit further in front right now, is the case that Smith trying to battle a little bit with McGregor as they come through the Wilson hairpin. And McGregor under a huge amount of pressure, the Scotsman, as a Simtek Excite racing driver here, really wants him to get a move on, because right now it is 1 second gap to Lee Horne ahead, and Will Smith wants to go chase it. But you see Michael Leese here side by side a little bit further back, as we've got Jamie Dory making it 3 wide in the battle for what is effectively their P12. And as they head at charging on down in towards Brundle, they make the way under braking here. Dory up the inside of Leese, but Leese is not having any of it here. He's holding that outside to inside line, but does he go overly deep? No, he doesn't. He keeps it and hooks it out very nicely. But Sam Smith coming through past McGregor, who took to a little bit of the runoff area there coming out of what was Brundle. well, and up into a bomb hole, and as they make the way down into Coram, in this case, Sam Smith has found his way on through and can now go chasing after Lee Horne, who's 1.5 seconds away, but now McGregor and Higgins behind. I think they might be swapping the places soon. Oh, there's contact there with Sam Smith, and well, that is sent him for a spin. Oh, goodness me, and Michael Lee's coming through as well. It's Bedlam as they come out the final corner, but they settle it down, and Sam Smith being tossed aside there like he's a loose change. I think he's not going to be too happy about that.
No, that was really, really big mess there, and how he kept it going, how everyone else kept it going. Oh, and there's contact now! Chadwick and Sam Smith come together, coming across the line. Big contact, and that's going to put Chadwick out of the race indefinitely. Let's see if we can get a replay of that. And that was Sam Smith recovering here. You can see they're catching up with him. Chadwick takes the outside. Oh, and the car in front goes ahead of him there. That was Houston. And, oh, no, Chadwick would not be happy about that indeed. It's definitely one for the stewards after. Let's take another quick replay of it just to confirm what happened. That is Newson in the middle. He's swerving to avoid Sam Smith. And it was, he was netcode again, do you think, Paul? It looked like netcode.
A little bit of netcode in there, but I think as well it was the case that Sam Smith, with the two drivers coming through, I think he anticipated one coming through, but not the latter. And also I think Chadwick, they're trying to go round Houston in the process. I think he may have just seen a little bit of the red mist and not seen the fact that Sam Smith was so close on the right. It's going to be a difficult one for the stewards to navigate there. I suspect they will lean one way or the other. It's not going to be treated as a racing instant.
Yes, exactly. So Chadwick, a bad race for him as he's down in 19th place. But it's been a good race here for Liam McNeilly. He's caught a little bit of Mikey Doble at the front there. A second has been caught so far. I'm not sure if the time's coming down enough. And he's also got to worry about the battling Chris Staines behind him. Chris Staines is going to want second place here above Liam McNeilly. And I'm not sure Liam McNeilly's going to be too bothered about catching up with Mikey Doble. He'll want the points on McNeilly to try and catch up in the championship. That's what he's going to be focused on. So let's see how it materialises as the second half of the race is progressing now. So down to Brundle. Mikey Doble leads this race. He's in control. He's lost a second to McNeilly, but that might be okay. He might have enough in the bag to stay ahead of McNeilly. McNeilly's got someone behind him pushing him along almost, which is significant help. But what about the AM category? Nicholson is still in 4th place there. He's just minding his own business in 4th place here. And he's got the hard charging Nick Clibbins behind him. Nick Clibbins, by the way, we haven't mentioned him. 14 places he's gained to 5th place here. What a charge through the field. Him and Adam Delmont here, Paul. Big places gained. 14 and 18, as well as 13 for McNeilly.
Well, indeed, they've all stayed out of trouble on those opening laps and really just siphed their way through the field of that top 15 reverse grid. And Adam Delmont, of course, having the biggest change, starting from the back right now. And it's not quite a last to first challenge being completed here in race number 2 today, but he'll definitely feel as though he's accomplished something similar to that as he chases after Clibbins. In terms of lap time, that last lap, he set a personal best. He was only 100ths of a second faster, so he is matching Clibbins on pace as we see the lap times there appear. And it is the case that behind Alan McCain, after starting on pole, he lost out the lead versus Jamie Nicholson, but he is now lapping almost 7/10 faster than Nicholson. I think McCain's trying to get the move on here, but has he left it too late given the fact we've got less than 5 minutes to go, and that's only really 4 laps remaining after this one. But to be fair, he could gamble it because he's got a 3.3 second gap to Lee Horne behind.
Yes, Lee Horne really charging us. Saw him go very wide coming out of turn 1. But Lee Horne with another potential good result here. 3rd in category at the moment. He's got a big buffer to 4th place. Back there in 14th, which is Michael Lees. Battling here with one of the HSR drivers. This is John Higgins Jr. trying to get his race back on track. To be fair to John Higgins, he's gained 4 places from where he started despite the half spin he had at the start of the race. So Higgins Jr. is definitely one of the drivers to look out for tonight. Battling here with Lee Horne. He's going to try and pull through Rob McGregor as well. Takes to the inside, going around Coram, and Lee Horne gives a little bit of room, but has track position over him. And will defend going into Murray's here, the final corner of the circuit. No move yet from John Higgins. Going to try and get a good run coming out of the corner here. Takes a bit of gravel there. And Lee Horne actually had a better run out of the corner there. 4 minutes to go here. The battle is on for these top spots in this race here. Adam Delmont is alongside Alan McCain and through, but in fact I think it's actually Alan McCain going for a move on Adam Delmont. As you said, Paul, McCain's really put the hammer down. He's got a good slipstream from Delmont and he could be putting Nicholson under a bit of pressure soon, but does he have enough time? That is again what we're asking.
I don't think he's going to have enough time. A 4.8-second gap to close down. It's going to be one of those situations, I think, for him where he's going to take the fight to Del Monte. I think you enjoy the battle, but I think this is more about practicing and looking for the moves later on. But a battle that is coming up in the AM class right now. Michael Lease and Nigel Stock have been back and forth in the battle for P4 in the class for some time here, albeit Stock has just lost out a little bit. I think there was a bit of a run wide for Nigel Stock coming out of Wilson Hairpin, but these two have been exchanging play. Oh, goodness me, what's happened here? We've got Dan James and Joseph Hewson in a bit of a mix.
Heading into Wilson here. Dan James, the driver behind. A bit of a lunge to Wilson. Didn't quite happen. Heading through the corner. Oh, and the two paths just meet. And the rear end is lost for Hewson there. That's a very tricky one to call. It just looked like that the two paths crossed, as I mentioned. And it makes Hewson's race from bad to miserable as they're far behind the pack here. But if they keep it going, there is a full reverse grid to remember. And remember that William Chadwick here, definitely one of the quickest drivers in the field. If he finishes where he is right now, he'll start very high up in the field for the next race, which is good for his championship. Not good that he's finishing far behind in this one, but it gives him a bit of a safety net for the race next, Paul.
Oh, indeed, and that's what he'll now need to focus on. Just bring the car to the finish within a lap of the leader's finishing time, and it will be the case that Chadwick will be entered for the purposes of that reverse grid. But as we look back here from the leader, Mikey Doble, it is the case now. McNeilly within 2 seconds. And what does that mean in terms of the race? It means how McNeilly will start to feel the faint sliver of the draft down the straights. It is a tiny sliver. When he gets to 1.5 seconds, it becomes more pronounced, and within a second, it's really noticeable. But McNeilly is pushing right now. Would you believe it? And the fact that last lap he took over 4 attempts out of Mikey Doble and is continuing to literally ravage the circuit right now in that Mazda MX-5, as we see Chris Dane staying right there with him. These two, as you said earlier, Alex, are working together right now. They want that fight with Mikey Doble going on to the final lap. They will have one more lap after the one they're going on to. I just think Mikey Doble will cross the timeline, or will. It's going to be literally a dead heat here. I'm not, no, we'll have one last lap here as he goes across the line. The white flag will be out, and as they make their way across that line, Mikey Doble now just needs to hold on for one more lap.
He does. I think he's got enough of a gap. He's got a driver ahead of him. I think that's John Higgins Sr. Might not have to worry about that at the moment, particularly as blue flags will be waved for John Higgins Sr. But Mikey Doble looks like he's in the bag to get his second win of the season. Although Liam McNeilly, hats off to him. A win in race 1 and a second here. 13 places gained to get there. A brilliant, brilliant drive from McNeilly indeed. Leading the AM class at the moment is Jamie Nicholson. This will be a win for him in category. I'm just going to see if he has taken a win yet this season in the category. He hasn't yet, so this will be a first for Nicholson as well. He'd be very pleased with that indeed. But let's take a look at Mikey Doble as he approaches the start finish, and is still swapping and changing between McNeilly and Danes for that second place as we head towards the end of the lap here. Mikey Doble will cruise towards these final few corners here, knowing the win's in the bag, knowing he's going to get some points on his rivals. And he knows more than anyone, points means championships. And as he heads around that final corner, he'll take to the checkered flag to win race 2 of the night here at Snetterton. And a very, very disappointing race 1 for him. He makes up for it in race 2 here. A win for him. Liam McNeilly, a big charge through from 15th on the grid to take second. Chris Danes takes third. Jamie Nicholson will come across the line first in AM category, and a first win of the season for him in the category. Alan McCain will come across in second place. He started on pole, but he finishes second in category, and he'll be pleased with that. And Lee Horne rounds off third place there in 11th overall for a podium in category. But I think last of the drivers on the lead lap was John Higgins Sr., so I think he will indefinitely start the race on pole position in the next race of race 3, a 25-minute race. But Paul, a little bit more tame that race was. There's a few lap 1 shenanigans, but it was a little bit of a calmer race, that one.
Oh, most definitely. I think it's the case. The lap 1 shenanigans just spread the field enough to essentially calm things down quite early. I think Mikey Doble getting that runaway at the start of the race, he played it to perfection, to be fair. To get past the AM drivers who were in front of him on the grid and then go charge off into the distance and pull a 4-second gap before McNeilly and Danes came on through. That really is what gave him that space. And then it became a big game of cat and mouse, a big game of chase up and down the field. And we saw that, to be fair, as well in the AM class, with Nicholson coming through with Danes and McNeilly and leaving McCain behind. And McCain in the end had the pace, but he just deployed it too late. He deployed it with only 5 minutes to go, and he didn't have the time to close it down. And that's the problem with this race number 2 at Snetterton. Our drivers are just losing out as we look to the results here.
Go ahead, Paul. Show us the results.
So indeed, in terms of race number 2 here, round 7 of the NXTGEN Racing MX-5 Cup in collaboration with Crest Autosport, Mikey Doble, our winner in race number 2 by 2.3 seconds ahead of Liam McNeilly, and Chris Daines completing the overall podium and the pro podium with Nick Clements P4, and then P5, Jamie Nicholson taking the win in the AM class for Evo Sim Racing with Fruity Pebbles. It's an Adam Delmont P6 ahead of Alan McCain, second place in the AM class, P7 overall. John Higgins, where's John Higgins Jr., P8, Rob McGregor P9, Dan Skinner P10, and just outside the overall top 10, but in 11th, it is our third place driver in the AM class, Lee Horne, completing the AM podium, ahead of Jamie Dory, Wayne Douglas, Sam Smith, and Nigel Stott. Sam Smith and Nigel Stott both coming to blows, but not able to pick up a podium here in race number 2. Then Dan James in P16, a very difficult race for the Rhino Motorsport driver, ahead of the newcomer Joseph Hewson, Paul Scott P18, and then below them in P19, it was Paul Scott, ahead of William Chadwick, who have had a race that he wants to forget, and he'll be ready to take that up forwards position in the full reverse grid for race number 3. And then it was Aidan Wilson and John Higgins Sr. who completed the standings in race number 2.
There we go. That has been race 2 of the night here from Snetterton, round 7 of the championship in the NXTGEN Racing MX-5 Cup. I've been Alex Everett, and alongside me Paul Walsh. We're about to get race 3 underway in just a few moments' time. Don't go away, ladies and gentlemen. 25-minute feature race coming up very shortly.
till then, find someone new. Baby, but you know I never will. No, so I choke you down just like a pill. Say you're sorry. Oh, maybe I'll leave. Baby, but you know I never will. No, so I choke you down just like a pill. Sometimes when you're here, I can feel no doubts, 'cause you keep me where the stars are found. It doesn't really matter, 'cause you're here with me now. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter, 'cause you're here.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Snetterton, but unfortunately, race is over for today at Snetterton. Now is the time that iRacing have decided to publish an update and go into maintenance mode. So we are unable to go racing for race 3. Sincere apologies for that, because the racing we were seeing tonight was very good. A lot of drivers wanted the reverse grid advantage for the race 3. But as far as we're aware here at NXTGEN Racing, we will run race 3 here at Snetterton probably next week. So what might happen is we'll have this third race at Snetterton next week, and then we'll go straight into the Watkins Glen races straight after. So next week there may be 4 races on offer for you. That's what I understand to be happening next week. But keep an eye on the channels for what's going on. Again, sincere apologies that we're not going to go racing for the third race of the night, but you will see it next week. Yeah, we're going to round it off here, guys, because we'll have no more racing tonight. But thank you very much for watching tonight's racing. Please do subscribe to the channel so you can tune in next week to catch all the races as they happen live. I've been Alex Everett of Crest Autosport, and if you've been watching on Crest Autosport TV on YouTube and Twitch, thank you very much. And likewise on NXTGEN Racing TV on Facebook. And alongside me tonight has been Paul Walsh. This has been the MX-5 Cup on NXTGEN Racing. We'll see you next time for race 3 of Snetterton and round 8 of the championship at Watkins Glen. Thank you very much and good night.